Did you know that regular movement of the physical body actually gets your brain in better shape? By moving your body, it's actually going to increase your brain's cognitive function. It's going to increase your ability to focus, your ability to learn, your memory. It can snap you out of brain fog when your brain gets foggy. It can help you get better sleep, better quality sleep. And like Tristan said earlier, you move it, you use it, or you lose it.
That's pretty much what came out this morning, and it's so true. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Trisbrina Show. I'm obviously Tristan, and this is
Sabrina.
my amazing partner in all things, Sabrina. And yes, as we're diving into this topic today, we were talking a little bit earlier about this show and the purpose of this show, why we love doing it so much. And so, first of all, it's because of all of our incredible community members and our students. We love you guys so much, and we show up usually pretty lit up with great information and insights that can help you stay on your path of Satori. And so for us, Satori is an awakening of your consciousness, awakening of your health, your vitality, your focus, and the brain, the body, and the breath. These three things are so important to create that connectivity so that you have physical health, so that you can stay connected to that inner harmony, and so you are happy. And so that's really the purpose of this show, is to encourage and motivate and inspire all of us to stay on the path. And what can we do in our lives? What can Tristan and Sabrina do that is like research that we can bring to you?
Yeah.
These are our latest findings. This is what's working in our lives. This is what we're seeing in our industry. This is what we're recommending. So we thought it would be really, really important to dive into the power of movement and how it affects your brain, because I think most people, they realize how much it helps your physical body, but they're not as aware of how much it helps your brain.
And as we learn and things, you get inspired to do something. Like, let's say, move my body. I got inspired to do that when I was 4 years old. I got inspired to do that so many years ago. But you have to reignite that inspiration and remember the benefits, because that keeps me on the right track. And tonight's show sort of came out of we were invited to help this group of online business owners and marketers grow their business. And they're in a conference that's 8 hours a day, where it's learning, making decisions, facing fears, reflecting back on what they want to do, making choices. And we were invited to come and help these people give their brain a break through physical movement, to help them move their body so that they can send oxygen in the form of blood to the brain, because that's how the brain is fed nutrients. And when we first started working with them, somebody took us a still shot, and I'm like, a bunch of them.
They sent it to us. We were like going like this, and then everyone was around, and
I'd say a third of them were just sitting and watching. And so we're like,
working.
they think this is like a dance contest, or they're misunderstanding that we're exercise monkeys.
They thought we were the dance
We were
monkeys.
the dance monkeys.
Oh, I don't have to focus right now. The dance monkeys do their thing.
And so we realized, well, what information, what data, what studies can we share with them, so they realize it doesn't matter how you move. You can move pretty, you can move ugly, you can move on beat, you can move off beat. It doesn't matter. We're looking at something completely different. We're looking at helping them attend this seminar and remember more things, make better choices, concentrate and focus and interact in their breakout rooms. That's why they were moving their body. And that's kind of weird, right? So I was telling Tristan earlier, and then we'll get into the 6 ways that we want to tell you movement changes your brain. So when you're doing, let's say you're doing some squats, right? And you're working your glute muscle. The glute muscle is changing, and everybody can say, oh, look,
My glute muscle screams.
Your glute muscle has changed.
Stop it.
But what they don't see is that while that was happening and you were exerting that effort and you were focusing and you were increasing your heart rate, everything that was happening in your brain, that your brain actually looks different. So I find this, we both do. We are such geeks.
Geek. squad right here. Brain Geek Squad alert, which is a really good thing because she's going to carry this show today. But I'm here in support and I have notes off to the side. So if you see me looking over there, it's because I want to keep up with the lady. So Sabrina did mention that there were 6 areas of focus that we thought were really important. And this has to do with how movement positively impacts your mood, anxiety, and depression. Age-related brain shrinking. Oh, no, you didn't. Sleep
horrible.
issues, and therefore sleep benefits, your focus, and your memory. These are all super important. We can get into other things as we go if we rabbit hole a little bit, but these are the things that are going to keep us on track here. We're going to be with you for about 25 minutes. Okay, my dear, should we jump into impact and mood? Okay, what's the good news? The good news is exercise can make your brain more sensitive to joy as you age.
Oh, yeah, that's really cool.
What? Say what? You can get more sensitive to joy? I like where this is going.
Okay, I'm going to read you the statistic. Our brains change as we age, and adults lose. This is the bad news, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess so. We'll start with the bad news.
The bad news. We lose up to 13% of the dopamine receptors in the reward system with each passing decade.
What?
And this loss can lead to a decrease in the enjoyment of just daily pleasures, things that would normally delight you. That's a lot. 13% a decade. So the way that I think of receptors is, somebody's throwing the joy ball and somebody's catching the joy ball. And the receptors to me are the catchers. So life is still great and enjoying, but you've lost 13% of your
ability
catchers
to catch the ball. Hey.
with every decade. But
there's good news. And the good news is, take it away, with every time you move your body and you take care of your brain simultaneously, because movement is what's supplying that blood/oxygen. Remember, blood carries the oxygen to the brain. It's bringing the nutrition, it's bringing the circulation. We haven't even tapped on how exercise and movement is affecting the energy channels, and it's bringing life force to the brain. But what happens?
With the hormones?
Well, no, when you light up the brain with movement, how does it positively give us the good news?
Give you the good news.
Yeah, I want that good news.
Okay. It's been demonstrated that it's an effective antidepressant. But doesn't that make sense? That if we're losing the ability to catch the joy and have more joyful, just a more joy-filled moment to moment, I actually immediately thought of the delight in a toddler, the delight in a child over just a butterfly. Yay! Right? And it's not just because it's new, it's because their brain is so able to see the joy, feel the joy. They haven't had all this stuff happen to them yet. So as we're moving, there's a place and time that medication, if somebody needs an antidepressant, but physical activity can both enhance the and sustain the prevention of many health conditions. Regular movement helps release hormones like endorphins. You guys know what that endorphin high is that are in the fitness fusion. And serotonin. You get, I'll talk about serotonin in a minute, which help lift your mood. It also helps promote dopamine and...
Well, let's get into oxytocin.
Okay.
And you don't want to go into norepinephrine.
And it helps. It helps you with attention. Now, serotonin. This is really interesting. When I was struggling with my own food addictions and then started studying that, and I actually went to like Overeaters Anonymous, and I met people with different types of eating disorders. There was a group of people that were they were just a compulsive overeaters, where just all of a sudden, they would just eat like 3 boxes of donuts, and they weren't bulimics. It was just a different thing. And when you eat a crazy amount of carbohydrates, your serotonin level shoots up momentarily. And then you get the crash and you get sad. But they said that's part of that cycle. So they're looking for that increase in serotonin. And serotonin is what's in a lot of the medications that people take for depression. You can also get serotonin through exercise and from being outside in the sunshine.
So let's just take a quick check-in with yourself. Have you ever had this happen where you were not in a good mood, since we're talking about mood and we're kind of bridging over into anxiety and depression, but Let's just land the plane on mood for a moment. Just layman terms. I don't feel great. Well, you should go work out. You go for a walk, exercise, do a routine. I don't really want to. And somebody talks you into it, or you have enough discipline to get
Yep.
yourself to a class. Then you kind of drag yourself to it, and you do it, and all of a sudden you start to feel a
Yep.
little bit better. You start to have a little more energy. You
Yep.
start to notice your mood shifts, and the class is over, and you're like, I'm so glad
Yep.
that I get in the chat right now. For those of you live, if you've experienced this, please do jump on the bandwagon,
Yeah.
because isn't it so amazing
It is so
that the
amazing.
movement can
Mhm.
change the way you feel?
I
It's
always I
incredible.
tell my classes when I'm teaching a class that's movement based, I have never regretted showing up to a movement session. I've never regretted it. Never,
No,
ever, ever.
no.
Because I'm a completely different person. So I've had a tendency to have anxiety in my life, and then there's this like worry list, and I can even wake up. It's like, how do I remember my worry list so early in the morning? But then you do the movements and you stop thinking about it, and then the worries, it's no longer a worry list, it's just a get to do list. It changes the way that I frame things. At the Gold's Gym, what do they say? Huge across the whole window is the hardest part is just showing up.
So true.
That's their slogan. The hardest part is showing up.
Yep, yep. And we're hearing in the chat right now, people are like, absolutely, totally, yes, they experienced it and they teach it. Hello, Kobe, great to see you. This is a beautiful phenomenon, and a beautiful way to be consistent is to register it in your brain. You know, every time I move, every time I exercise,
Yep.
I actually feel better. This makes me a better person. I'm
Mhm.
nicer to my fill in the blank because I work out.
Yeah.
So we really want to find those anchors,
Yep.
those connection, those neural associations that remind us today's a moving day,
Yep.
not a sitting only day. It's a really important thing, and it's for your brain, because
Yep.
your brain is feeding neural peptides. It's molecules of emotion that are released into your body, and they attach on those receptor cells, and they affect the cells, and the cells produce feelings. Right, so those hormones that we were talking about earlier, like serotonin and dopamine and
Endorphins.
thank you, endorphins and oxytocin, all these incredible pharmacopoeia that's created in your brain goes into your body, makes you feel these things. They're natural pain relievers. They bring
Yeah.
joy to your life. What are those doing? They're changing you at a cellular level, from the brain to the body. And now the brain and the body are in cahoots together.
Yeah.
They're on the same team together, because nobody doesn't want to feel good. That's
Right.
like baked into your soul. So this is how,
Mhm.
in my opinion, you are aligning through movement. You're taking care of the body temple. You're being respectful to
Yeah.
the self, and the body is rewarding you. It's saying, yep, that's God.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go there. That's God. God gives you the good hormones, right? So when you do good, you get God hormones. So stay on track with your movement.
And another thing with mood is sometimes I think the worst mood that I have is just like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I feel. I just feel disconnected. I feel apathy. And I really don't like that. I like feeling something so I can redirect it. And that's kind of what brain fog feels like to me. Like I can't focus. I can't decide what I want to do. I might be oxygen deprived in the brain, right? And that's another thing that movement does, right? It's going to increase your circulation. Your body says, hey, put some blood in the brain. And when that blood goes to the brain, it's like pouring a bottle of vitamins on the brain, because you're giving it nutrients. And then it's not groggy, it's not foggy. You can make the decisions. You see things clearly. You step forward into who you are rather than just sitting back. It makes total sense, right? If your brain is dehydrated or just in this fog, like somebody who can't get enough oxygen, they're not going to be in a good mood. Well, your brain's a little person like that. When it doesn't have enough oxygen, it can't think clearly. So all you have to do is move.
Feed your
it's
brain.
like, it's a miracle.
So how much movement do we need? It doesn't take that much. You know what's the best thing that you can do is be consistent with your movement.
Mhm.
And you know, because of the reward that you'll get from those hormones dumping into your body, you'll want more of it. You'll get chemically addicted to the good feelings, right?
Mhm.
And that's what you want. You look at some people and go, boy, they're so consistent. They work out all the time. They're just addicted. Raise your hand if you're one of those people. And that's a good addiction, right? You want to be chemically addicted to the good hormones that come from movement. So maybe you're doing 10, 15 minutes,
Yep.
right? I've been there where I couldn't do very much, but those 10, 15 minutes gave me those natural
Or
painkillers.
1 minute, like on the hour.
Absolutely. And we're going to segue now into anxiety and depression. For me, when I had my back injury, it was massive depression from lack of movement. The doctors told me, don't move, rest. You need to recover and heal and rejuvenate. That didn't happen. Wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Because I wasn't stimulating my brain. Even if it was twiddling my thumbs, that would have been a better recommendation than just lay down, right? So you want that brain-body connection going on all the time with good, healthy breathing. And I noticed that I got out of depression from the more I moved. I'd never really been super depressed until I was in pain, until I stopped moving. So I would say the bad news is when you stop moving, chances are you're going to not be a happy person. Have you noticed people who don't move a lot tend to be a little grumpy and maybe a little moody and even get very sad, right?
Yep.
Yep. Are you checking in with me? Hi.
Hi.
I found a hand on my lap. I'm like, who's over there? So we're segueing now from movement, obviously shifts and changes your mood, and it helps you deal with anxiety and helps you deal with depression. What's next?
So we did mood and we did anxiety and depression. I want to add one more thing with anxiety. This is fascinating.
Oh, good. I'm glad because
Okay.
I didn't go into that as much.
Have you ever worked out and gotten a little sore? Those of you that are here in the Black Belt Circle, if you did my workout last Sunday, I bet your booty was quite sore. Mine was. Well, this is so cool. The latest research suggests that lactate, the metabolic byproduct of exercise that is commonly blamed for muscle soreness. Like I always say, hey, if you're a little sore, move again so that you move that through your system. It's like getting a massage. Well, it says after the lactate is released by the muscle, which is that like move again, it travels through the bloodstream to the brain. Who knew?
Who knew?
Where it alters your neurochemistry in a way that reduces anxiety and protects against depression. Who created that? Hey, I think her butt's going to get sore, and I'm going to send that stuff to the brain and make some new neural networks. I mean, that is recycling, right? That is genius. Who would have thought?
Who'd thunk it?
Next time I'm sore, I'm going to go, I'm going to be so smart.
Well, have you noticed? I'm laughing so much I'm making the desk shake. I apologize. Have you noticed that people who exercise tend to have more of a sharp brain? Maybe not all, but I'm pretty sure that people who do movements that require a little bit of finesse, a little bit of complex motor skill, maybe a little fine motor skill, improving upon balance and coordination, they're firing those neurons in the brain. They're sharpening the sword, if you will. And there is a thing known as physical intelligence. We have emotional intelligence and social intelligence, things like that. But that physical intelligence that happens between the brain and the body through exercise, that intelligence rubs off on other things. It helps you be more acute, more present, more focused, more able to absorb information and retain information. So I know we're getting into focus a little bit, but I have noticed this. You brought it up a moment ago. It just has to do with the fact that the more you move, the smarter you get. So if you feel that in your booty, I guess that means you feel you're going to be smarter.
You're a smart ass.
You're a smart ass. Exactly. And funny to boot. Okay.
Number 3.
Let's get into age-related brain shrinkage. Oh, no, you didn't, is what I said earlier. So after the age of 30, that's what they're saying. This study says your brain begins to shrink, especially the frontal lobe. What? We need the frontal lobe. It's for focus and memory retention. It affects emotions,
organization and planning,
impulse control, yes, problem solving, social interaction. So this is because the brain's shrinking. Okay, so, well, I'm way over 30, so thank God I'm moving. Otherwise, I'd have a little brain. So you want to increase. This is what's weird, right? Like the older you get, the more you should move. And you might be saying, well, I can't move like I moved when I was 30 or 20.
You
It's
don't
not
have to.
saying that you have to go rah, rah, jumping jack cheerleader. It's saying it's important for you to keep moving consistently so that your
Hmm.
brain doesn't shrink,
Yeah.
right? Do you want to get into that a
Hmm.
little bit more?
Well, it's I think it's the same thing with so many parts of the body, right? After the age of 30, every year we lose a certain percentage of our bone density. We lose a certain percentage of our muscle mass
Right,
unless
right.
unless you continue to use it. And
Use
I
it or
think
lose
in
it.
society, we're very active, we're more in sports, more running around, and then maybe you have toddlers, and then the lifestyle can become more sedentary.
Right.
And as well as all these benefits that we're telling you about moving, there's some new studies that say long times leisurely sedentary, how you could like sit on a Saturday and watch a whole Netflix 3 seasons in a row, how bad that is for your brain to not get up and move. So it isn't like you're in neutral and there's things you can do to make your brain bigger. But if you're not growing it, you're probably shrinking it, right? Just because every day is ticking. So the prefrontal cortex is one of the main things that light up when you increase your circulation, and how we were talking about how the blood flow goes. Almost immediately, you're able to focus more and concentrate more.
Mm. Yeah, you're affecting the brain neurons too, right? Because you're using them and you're stimulating them and you're helping them to grow stronger
Mm-hmm.
so that the brain's not shrinking. Here is a nice piece of information that I was just reading through and I thought, oh, I'm just
Yeah,
going to read it to you guys.
read it.
Not only does exercise make the existing brain structures healthier, it can increase the size of the brain. See, exercise
Mm.
stimulates something known as brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this facilitates the growth of new neural connections
Yep, yep.
in the brain, improves the health of the existing neurons. So you want all the neurons that you have, those senders and receivers through the synaptic connection, you want the health of that neuron to be maintained. So
Mm-hmm.
if remember your days of biology, the neuron has a sheath, a myelin sheath around it, fatty substance that helps protect the neuron. Well, by bringing nutrition to the brain, by getting that blood and that oxygen and firing those neurons, you're keeping them healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So keep moving.
Yeah, I'm going to read something too that so when you learn something new, like you learn a new movement, a new way to move your arm, or let's say instead of A, B, C, you have B, C, A, and if every letter represented a movement, that there's different routines and there's different varieties. That's why they say sometimes learning a new language or playing an instrument. Because the less variety you have, the less stimulation. So even if you're going for a walk, listen to a different song when you go for a walk, or go for a walk in a different area. Do things that make you pay more attention, and then try different arm positions during a squat. I'm reading this. Every variation can stimulate your brain. And that's why um, people have laughed during our energy expansion event. I said, growing up, my mom had these like Jane Fonda tapes, and you would do them and you do them like 12 times, and they were awesome. And then you knew every joke they were going to say beforehand, and you could space out. And why I love like our ongoing continuity classes, because it's always different, even if
Yeah.
you're watching a replay. So you're
Variety.
constantly learning different things, different jokes. It's not, your brain doesn't
Thank
go to
God.
sleep. And
Different
then
jokes.
exercise and movement have been shown to increase brain volume, which is what we're talking about, through the formation of new neural circuitry. This happens through a combination of hormone stimulation and increased blood flow. This boost in volume has been noted in areas of the brain that help with memory, reasoning, and learning. So if you're talking to somebody and you're like, they are so not reasonable right now, maybe just say, hey, you want to go for a walk together? Get them moving so that you can help them light up their brain. Well, haven't you ever heard it like when somebody's upset, it's like, hey man, let's walk it off.
Walk it
Just
off.
guys walk it off.
Sometimes you do. You need to go outside and take a walk. If you ever get too heated, too emotional, I've never had that happen. Go for a run, punch a bag, exercise,
Mm-hmm.
right? I noticed this might be interesting to some of you who are coaching folks. I noticed when people got stuck in their head, They couldn't think clearly. There were emotions that they were trying to process. It was much harder to process them sitting down face to face or one to one on Skype or something. And I would tell the folks, especially when we were working in person, hey, why don't we, like you said, go for a walk? And so we would leave the dojo, which is where I was doing coaching at the time, the physical martial arts school, and we would just walk up this beautiful street and there were houses and birds and sounds, and we would walk and coach and walk and coach, and their energy would
Yeah.
shift. Their state would shift. Their brain was getting lit up through the movement.
Yep.
And so it enabled them to open up more, it enabled them to move through emotions faster, and it got them to a place of clarity.
Yep.
So movement is so good for the brain.
Yep.
So good. We just want to hit all the points that we can.
Okay.
So let's move into why movement affects sleep and why movement therefore affects the brain's ability to sleep. Because if you can't sleep, well, your body is depleted.
Well, they say that it not only does it help you sleep better hours, but actually the quality of sleep. And I always sort of summed it up that I sleep better when I move, because I feel like the body just has some energy that too much energy. I'm not saying like hyper or like rah energy, just energy that has some angst to it. And when I move, it seems to make that all smooth and calm.
Yeah, our friend Julia at Simple Smart Science, we interviewed her years ago, and she talked about when you go to sleep, the brain has like little sweepers that come
Oh.
through in the middle of the night and they clean up all the debris. And if you don't get that quality sleep, then the streets are filled with gunk and
I
junk.
love that.
Yeah, and it's literally that's what happens in the brain is these little sweepers come and they clean out all the messy stuff. And so again, movement is going to help you have a healthy brain so you have healthy sweepers.
That's cool.
And you'll sleep better.
And I've noticed that when I have like a full night's sleep, this is hard to explain, but I know that some of you that are here are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, you know what you mean." I have this dream, and the dream almost is weird. It doesn't make sense, but I can see that my brain was pulling information from, oh, that talk I had with that person, my thought about that thing I spilled on the floor, my frustration with that, my joy on that. And so when I read about it, it said at night, it's like your brain sort of goes through all the data it collected during the day, and it's like, well, we can put this in the back files, not going to need that thought, and what we want to keep. So your brain is sort of reviewing and going through and filing.
Kobe has joined in with the fact that if we don't sleep, she said that's why we wake up a little cray-cray. It's so true. You can wake up cray-cray and grumpy and just you don't tend to have as beautiful as a day.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say one last thing about sleep, the importance of sleep, which is it's so restorative. I consider sleep a type of energy art. I've often said sleep is like a form of qigong because isn't it crazy? Think about like, let's play a little game for a second. I just said this to Sabrina the other night. Let's pretend that this is a charging station. If you guys know what a charging station is for your device, and you put it on there and it charges it. Now, most of us plug it in. We often use the analogy of a cable, but there are docking stations, and that's going to become the main way of charging things moving forward. But anyway, this is like a bed, and this is you on your docking station. You literally lay on a square, and it recharges you. So what I want to know is what's happening here. Now, in reality, the bed's not doing it for you. It's your brain. But when your brain can enter into and through alpha and theta into deep delta, and you're going through these brainwave states, you truly are tapping into the infinite, and you're interfacing with the source force energy that is giving you life, and it's charging you back up while you lay on your bed / docking station.
Yep. And you're going through so many different brain waves and so many different levels of sleep. Like you said, the little guys are sweeping.
They're busy, man. They're cleaning up.
They're getting rid of data. And then there's the downloads that happen in certain brain waves where insights are put in there, and you might not realize the deja vu until something the next day. And you're like, oh, think I already feel this. There's so much happening in the brain. You know, when you sleep, that's when all the anti-aging hormones are happening.
That's
Like
right.
if you're not sleeping,
Yep.
you're not getting the benefits of those. Like use all the miracle creams that you want. You can't you can't keep up with not sleeping.
It's awesome conversation
So
to be having. So if you move, even do a little light qigong the night before you go to sleep, you're going to sleep like a baby and you're going to wake up with your anti-aging taken care of. Right? So I know when I miss my workouts or I miss my qigong, I don't sleep as well. I simply don't, and that drains me. So,
Mm.
yeah, note to self. All right, let's talk about focus.
All right.
This one, oh, as a martial artist, movement and focus was everything because it was the way we were trained. So
Mhm.
you're giving your mind a job, right? This was something that was shared today in our Life Force Dojo during class as we were doing our qigong. What I said is enroll your mind in this slow movement. It doesn't have to be fast, this slow movement practice, and give it a job. So you're basically telling your mind, work on your form, work on your symmetry, really pay attention to what you're doing so you can bring that to your movement. Your movement doesn't have to be mindless.
Yeah.
It could be very mindful. And so as you're present to what you're doing, you're training your brain as you're working with your body. The mind and the body are always connected.
Mhm.
Body, mind, brain, body, it's all one. So being present, I wanted to add that into movement. Be present when you move. It's going to light up those neural connections and it's going to give your brain focus. So definitely bring your A game to the playing field when it comes to movement.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit
Well,
about
that reminds me. The focus there was a study. It's a PubMed study, and it was about qigong improving recognition in seniors with vascular cognitive impairment. They had 3 different groups that did qigong twice a week, and they all showed, all 3 groups,
oh, cool,
significant
qigong study.
improvement in cognitive function, memory, executive function, and problem solving ability. And to me, that's the focus. Right? So like we were saying, you don't have to, you have to go to the gym and lift the heaviest weight or do CrossFit or run 5 miles. These were seniors doing qigong, and the study, actually I showed you, it even said that when people, they've done studies where people are moving and they donate their brain, they can actually see, I think they call it more gray matter. So
Sure.
that the brain actually looks different in the people who moved.
I noticed this as a martial art instructor for children who I was teaching in an area where a lot of kids were starting to be labeled with ADD or ADHD. And the parents were bringing them in and letting us know that,
Oh, yeah.
Johnny's got to make sure he just gave him medication for this condition.
Mm-hmm.
He might be bouncing off the walls a little bit, but it should kick in soon. I was like, okay. Uh, Okay. And then I was noticing, kids eating all these sugary drinks before class. And so I started having little talks with the parents like, hey guys, maybe let's get them off the games. And let's stop pumping the sugar into their body and let's get them to class more frequently and see if we can't naturally handle this.
Yeah.
And, the thing that happens is that the kids weren't being able to move. They weren't getting the opportunity to move. We are designed, especially as children, to jump around and run and play and not sit down, suck on sugar, work on little games and crap.
Yeah.
Excuse my French. So guess what happened? Little Johnny didn't need to take those pills so much, or some of the kids
Well,
were
tell them
getting
about
off
Chris.
that. That's right. Chris, he's new in our world. He started doing some filming for us, and we were talking to him, and he said, when he was a teenager at the
He
time.
was in high school.
He was having problems focusing. Was he sad? Did he say he was feeling depressed?
He was having, definitely they were saying he had ADHD,
Right.
and he was social anxieties, and
That's
so
it. That's it. It was a social
they
anxiety.
put him on some antidepressants.
They sure did, and so they made him feel terrible. So he went back to the doctor, and he said,
He
what
took
do I
him
do?
one day. He said, I hate the way I feel.
And the doctor said, after the fact, well, you could start going to the gym and exercising. That's been shown to help. And so guess what? Chris never needed medication. He started working out and moving his body because, like some of those kids
Yeah.
I just talked about, that had been part of his
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle. He wasn't moving. Movement's medicine.
Yeah.
It give your brain the pharmacopoeia. Tap the pharmacopoeia of your brain.
Yep.
Move. Please hear this. It's so important.
I had a young boy. His mom brought him to me maybe 13 years old. And he was almost stoic and robotic. He had been diagnosed with,
We're not saying that the pills aren't helpful to some.
I didn't mention any pills.
No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry. I just want to make sure
He
for anyone
had
who's going, hey, wait, but some kids need it.
obsessive compulsive.
Just
He had trouble focusing. He had a little like paranoia where he couldn't stop like looking in the mirror. He was hard to talk to.
I
He
remember
couldn't
this
make eye
boy. I
contact.
remember this boy.
And so his mom read, so he tried martial arts, and he was such a little sensitive soul that he couldn't handle that.
He
Like
didn't have me as his.
to any type of fighting was shutting him down more. So she brought him to me. He was one of my first private students, and she said, "Can you see him 3 times a week?" And I was like, "Okay, I don't know anything about this, but I can teach him to dance." And we would come and we would dance, and he got really good. He got so good, we started doing competitions together. He was like a star pupil at the Latin dancing, and slowly his mom started actually weaning him off of, this is just what happened with him, of those medications. And then at the very end, and this is after like 3 or 4 years, she changed his diet. And once she took him off of sugar and put him on, I think she said more fish oils and just really a cleaner diet with no processed food. He was having a lot of allergies from the age of probably 15, and he's probably 25 now. He hasn't had any medication. So it was the movement and a way to focus all that energy, and then eating clean and keeping his system clean. And it was such a miracle to watch, because I would watch him some days. He would come in and he would be so swollen from a medication that he had been given, and he would just be pouring sweat, and his mom would say he's going to be stiff today because of this new medication.
These are synthetic chemicals.
You know,
Our brain doesn't know how to,
yeah, and if
process this in our
movement
body.
could take the place of some of that, which it did. He actually went to college and became a competitive parkour.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes, and he
It's
was
like this
he can
incredible
do
movement art.
he can be on one hand and stick his body out to the side.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Talk about the power of focus. Well, that's a beautiful thing to
Yeah.
see what you can turn around through doing movement. Let's just jump into one last one with y'all, and that's memory. Who doesn't want to have a better memory, and who
Yep.
isn't, to some degree, myself included, not fearful or concerned, but mindful would be my word choice. Mindful of, as my brain ages, that I'm doing the right things to maintain my memory and my cognitive function. I would
Mhm.
prefer not to get other things that people are experiencing with the brain and forgettery and
Yeah.
dementia and Alzheimer's. So
Yep. Well, there was another study that I'll bring up, and it was in China, and it was 1 year of qigong with
I love those
older
Qigong studies.
Chinese adults who were at risk of cognitive decline. They also did 2 times a week qigong, and the conclusion was, after 1 year of practice, 1 year of qigong practice was significantly superior to stretching exercise, not only for the prevention of cognitive decline, but also for the improvement of several cognitive functions. So, and we read that in numerous studies, for people who are having cognitive decline and even Alzheimer's, still doing the physical movement can slow down the brain shrinkage and slow down the dementia. And that's why learning something new, especially learning a new physical movement, is like the number one thing you can do. If you look up, say, dancing and brain function, you're going to see that they're
That's
saying
huge.
like
It's
the
huge.
biggest way to grow your brain is to do something that takes coordination, where you have to move forward or move sideways or maybe move to music or memorize a sequence. That's what you want to be doing. Yes, you can learn a language and you can play crossword puzzles and do all that, but the fast track is going to be to add movement. So it's not just so your legs are stronger and you have greater bone density and more muscle mass and you can fit in your jeans, and all that's awesome. But there's something going on that they don't even know. You want to grow a successful business? Get up and bounce, tap, squeeze, shake, and flow every hour, just for a little bit. And that was so fun that we're working with these entrepreneurs and business owners to help them have a more successful business. We're just getting them moving for one song a few times a day.
Yeah, totally. The variety is so important to stimulate all those patterns in the brain. My experience, my personal experience with memory and movement has been that when I'm moving, it's like a meditation for me. And when I'm just in my head thinking, I feel like I get into a traffic jam.
Mm.
My bandwidth, if you understand the concept of bandwidth, which you might with your computer, like when you have too many things open, too many tabs, too many web pages open and programs at one time, and your computer starts to crawl really
Spinning,
slow, and you get the
the
spinning
spinning
wheel.
ball, the dreaded spinning
It's
wheel.
too much data going on in the brain. Your bandwidth in that, it's not exactly the right correlation, but it makes sense. There's too much going on. Well, you can't get through the traffic jam. And so we need to open the roads up and clear away all of the excess uh, system resource hogging going on. Well, that's thoughts, too many mind, too many thoughts. So when I move, I focus on one thing, fully present. And when I get that one thing going, then I focus on the next thing. And when I get that going, I add another one. We call it layered learning. And what I've noticed is through training my brain to be present to what I'm doing and to layering my learning, I have incredible memory. I have incredible recall because I didn't try to learn while I was under pressure, while I
Mm-hmm.
was under taxation,
Yeah.
right? My bandwidth is open when there's only one thing. They say that multitasking is really terrible for your brain, that your brain really can only focus on one thing at a time. Now, I understand that your subconscious mind can take care of many things at one time, and that's a beautiful thing, but that's not really what multitasking is. Multitasking is trying to focus your cognitive brain on many things, and some people seemingly can do that. They're just very good at jumping between. They have a fast processor, fast catcher, senders and catchers. But over time, everyone's processor in their brain is different. Some people try to do that, it burns them out. So my point is this: if you could focus on one thing and be so present to what you're doing, and therefore get the juice out of that moment and really learn it well, and then
Mm-hmm.
throw that to the automated part of your brain, the subconscious mind takes over, and you layer that next thing on, you have incredible recall.
Yeah.
And I would train our students to, at the end of class, go back through the sequences, through the pattern of what we learned, and bring it back up in their brain and relay down. When you revisit something, you're building a stronger neural network connection. That's what memory is, your ability to access those
Yeah.
healthy neural net
Like
connections.
remembering a sequence of movements.
But you have to be present to do it. So don't be splitting your focus. Hone in on what you're doing. Approach it like a meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Approach it like a craft, something you're really into. And that's really important, right? Find things that you love. Find things that light you up and light your brain up. And also challenge your brain. Your brain has to be challenged a little bit to get into flow state. If it's too easy, you'll get bored and it won't challenge you enough to light the new neural networks up. So do things that cause your brain to be smart, to be in flow, and to have incredible recall. You can do that
Mm-hmm.
if you move your body, because it's one of the best ways to connect
Yep.
those two, brain and body,
Yeah.
and keep breathing.
Yeah. I think it's one of the biggest fears of society. It certainly is one of mine, is that I want to keep my brain function. I want to be able to continue to make my own decisions as I get older. I want to be able to take care of myself, and I don't want to be a burden. Like, and so I want to do everything I can to stay sharp, like Betty White.
Right, right.
Right? To keep the punchlines coming, to keep hearing the humor, to keep seeing the joy in everyday life. The ability to catch that joy. So, what an amazing conversation that we've had, huh? If this doesn't inspire you to move around, I don't know what will.
Elise says this is one of my favorite quotes. Experiencing new things is the best way to keep our mind young, pliable, and growing into our 80s, 90s, and beyond. Daniel J. Levitin, or Levitin. He was a neuroscientist. Yes. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for all the incredible comments that came through tonight. I see you guys. We see you all here joining in and
We go and read them
sharing.
all.
We do. We're going to go have our date night and just, love on y'all and share more into this
Smile.
chat. Smile?
Into the camera.
I am smiling. I'm always smiling, aren't I?
Stop talking.
No, I'm not done. All right, sweet friends. On that note, we're going to bring up the official Trisbrina music. It's just so good. And it's royalty free. Have a great evening. Happy date night to you.
Go move.
Go date yourself. All right. Until next time, much love.